we have some big news to discuss today as the Toronto Blue Jays have made multiple moves, and one of them is quite surprising as they have designated one of their prospects for assignment. So we'll break that down in this episode of Jays Digest, as well as Yariel Rodriguez. He has officially been signed by the team on more term than we initially thought, and Ross Atkins spoke out on the signing as well. So we have a lot to break down today, so stay tuned for that in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? It's Gosse, your host of Jays Digest, and a lot of stuff came out today. We have a lot to get into. Yariel Rodriguez, a bunch of different news and prospect news, and let's just get right into it. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We are on the road to 12,000. Your support has been unbelievable as we are waiting for the Jays to potentially make a big splash. They have made a couple of minor moves today and some very interesting things, and one of them is a bit of a surprise, and let's get right into it as the Jays have made a bit of a surprising move today. And obviously, Yariel Rodriguez, we knew that signing was going to happen, or at least we presumed. He was having troubles with his visa and getting over to the MLB. But now it is official that they have signed with the Blue Jays. But before we get into that, this has come out as the Blue Jays had designated for assignment Otto Lopez to make room on the 40-man for Yariel Rodriguez. And we'll discuss that signing later on in this video, as well as Ross Atkins speaking out. But Otto Lopez is no longer on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, this is a bit of a surprise in the sense of I did not expect them to let go of Otto Lopez this early. Obviously, he's had a very interesting career. He had that little stint with the Blue Jays where he was unbelievable, a hitting machine for 4 or 5 games, and I believe it was September of 2 years ago in 2022. But Otto Lopez is a prospect. He was highly touted for a while. We saw him play in the World Baseball Classic. We saw all these things. He was maybe going to be one of the potential infielders or outfielders, kind of a utility guy of the future for the Toronto Blue Jays. And unfortunately, his career, especially last season, was riddled with injuries, and he ultimately had a very poor minor league season last year, which kind of led to his demise, I guess, regarding the Toronto Blue Jays. And this is from Keegan Matheson saying the Blue Jays have designated Otto Lopez for assignment, and he liked Lopez a lot going into 2023, like all of us did. Great contact guy, and he nearly grabbed a more permanent job, but he was out of options. Lopez could easily catch on elsewhere, but he'd still be a nice piece to keep in the organization if he clears. I guess not if he clears waivers. He's not on waivers, but if no other team signs him to a minor league deal. And this is very, very interesting to me. Again, Otto Lopez, we all know, or if you watch the Jays, you know about him. He's a very good contact guy, minimal power, a very solid defender. We saw him play a bunch of different positions there. And you can look at his kind of stats throughout his career. And if you look at the major kind of season last year that he had, it was not the best, especially in Buffalo with AAA. In the Dominican Winter League, he had a very solid showing, putting up an 834 OPS. But when you're looking over the bigger and looking at the bigger sample size in 2023 with the Buffalo Bisons there, he had a 656 OPS in 84 games, which was very disappointing, especially coming off of 2022 where he was very, very solid with them. And even with the Blue Jays, he had a 1,367 OPS in 8 games, and that was the stint I was talking about. He is 24 years old, but again, his poor season last year in Buffalo, again, he had a good stint in 24 games in the Dominican Winter League, but his stint in Buffalo kind of hurt him a little bit. And when you're out of options like that, the Jays had to pick, and they kind of have to pick their pieces about who's going to make an impact going forward. And then when you also look at how many players and other prospects the Toronto Blue Jays have in the pipeline, you think of Elvis Martinez, you think of Addison Barger, you think of all these guys, even the younger guys, Emmanuel Bonilla, who's a ways away coming up. Davis Schneider is not really a prospect anymore, but he's still on the major league team and is going to have priority over a guy like Otto Lopez. You had to cut your losses with Otto Lopez, but it's very sad to see him go because there was a time there in 2022 when people thought, including myself, that he could be the infielder or one of the infielders of the future for the Toronto Blue Jays. Solid glove, minimal power, as you can see, very minimal power, like less than 12 home runs in his entire career in the minor leagues. But the point is, or around 20, the point is, I'm a bit upset, but it makes total sense because you kind of had to do that. I didn't suspect it to be Otto Lopez, but when you look at some of the other options, you can make a case that Otto Lopez makes the most sense, especially with the amount of depth the Toronto Blue Jays have, both in their minor league system and their major league team and major league system regarding infielders. So Otto Lopez unfortunately did not make the cut. It's a bit of an interesting, a very surprising decision, I guess. I did not expect that to happen today, but it did. And let me know what your thoughts are in the comments if you have any memories of Otto Lopez. But let's move on to now, which is Atkins speaks out on the Yariel Rodriguez signing, which has become official, which is why Otto Lopez was ultimately sent down. And this is a very interesting signing. So you can see this is what Ross Atkins had to say about the signing. He said, Yariel brings a diverse arsenal, impressive athleticism, and ability to get swing and miss. He adds starting depth to our pitching group and has a chance to impact our major league team in multiple roles. You see he passed his physical in the Dominican Republic. It is expected that in about 10 days he will arrive in the States and join the Jays in spring training, which is phenomenal news. And then Ben Nicholson-Smith also drops this tidbit of info saying, expect Yariel Rodriguez to have the chance to stretch out as a starting pitcher in spring training. It's been a while, but if he can sustain the velo, repeat his delivery, command, there's a path to the starting job, or maybe he begins in the bullpen. And the deal is official, but it's a 5-year 32, not the 4. And we all thought, when we made a video a couple weeks ago when the deal was kind of leaked by Carlos Berga, I believe, or Hector Gomez, it was someone. They leaked it as 4 years, $32 million, which was still solid. Not a bad amount at all. But now we get an extra year of control for the same base salary. This is a phenomenal deal for the Blue. I mean, we thought it was a phenomenal deal at 4 years, 32. But when you're looking at now, 5 years, 32, you cannot ask for much more than that if you are the Toronto Blue Jays. You have a guy who has a very high ceiling. You pitch very well at $6.4 million AAV. That is a phenomenal deal for the Toronto Blue Jays, and one that I'm very happy was made official. I was starting to get a little bit worried about what was happening with that signing. I was hoping that everything would clear, but Yariel Rodriguez is a Toronto Blue Jay, and what his role is still up in the air. Whether he starts the season in the bullpen, whether he kind of develops into a starting pitcher, I don't think he's going to start the season in the minors like some may have initially expected. At least it doesn't seem that way based off what Ross Atkins is going to say. I would suspect maybe he starts off in the Ross Stripling, Trent Thornton kind of role, where he's maybe the extra starter on a back-to-back, or if someone's hurt, he obviously slides in to start. He's the long man out of the bullpen, or maybe they'll pitch him in high leverage situations out of the bullpen. I mean, we really don't know yet. What we do know is that they're going to be using him in a variety of situations and a variety of roles. And again, I'm over the moon about this. This is way better than we thought. Obviously, it's only a difference of $1.6 million per year, but when you look at it from the grand scheme of things, we have this guy in the system now for 5 years, and based on everything, based on his prior record in the different leagues he pitched in, the World Baseball Classic, he is going to be very good. He obviously didn't pitch last year at all. He took the year off, but before that, he was a very good pitcher. He pitched in the Winter Baseball Classic last year for a couple games against some of the more lackluster teams in the WBC, but the big thing is, we have him for 5 years. He's going to be a very, very good pitcher going forward, and when you're looking at how this could impact the cap going forward, or not the cap because there's no cap in baseball, but the kind of luxury tax, Joshua Hossam here says some interesting things. So you can see he basically says that with the Rodriguez deal and Vlad's arbitration done, the Jays' CBT number is now projected to be just under 250. The first level of the tax is 237. The second is 257. So obviously there should be room for one more good move, and the second tier shouldn't make a big difference. So this kind of highlights, I'm not super into the cap. I'm not like a cap guy. I'm not a cap nerd regarding this stuff. But essentially what's happening is that the Jays still can make a big move, and they haven't really been scared by the different tiers of the luxury tax. But we've been hearing rumblings about Matt Chapman, and we've been hearing a lot of rumblings about Cody Bellinger, specifically yesterday with Jeff Passan. I'm very excited to see what happens with the Jays going forward, and they have room to make another move. This deal is even more team-friendly, and if they can go out there and make one more big signing, if they get a guy like Cody Bellinger, I will be very, very happy with this offseason. If they don't, I'm still okay with the offseason. It's probably a C+, a great offseason if they don't get Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, or anyone else, but at the very least, this was a very sneaky and good signing by Ross Atkins. I'm very happy with it. And I think ultimately, going forward, this might be a signing we look back at in 2 to 3 years, maybe even as soon as the end of this year, and be like, wow, for that price, especially with all the inflation that's going on with the around MLB, people are getting paid like crazy. We're seeing relievers get paid hundreds of millions. We're seeing all this stuff. Having a guy like Rodriguez, it could be a serviceable starter in this league for $6.4 million AAV is very, very good. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on both of these things, the Otto Lopez move and officially Yariel Rodriguez and the new contract details. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now, and we'll see you tomorrow.